Hi guys, today we're going to be reading Mountains Surviving on Mount Everest by Michael Sandler. This sure looks like it's going to be an exciting story. Before we get started, let's go over a couple things. So, if we look over here, our target skill is looking at text and graphic features. We've done this quite a lot now, guys, now that we've done so many informational stories. We are getting to be professionals at spotting those text and graphic features. So as you read Mountains Surviving on Mount Everest, note how the author uses text features and graphic features such as headings, maps, diagrams, and charts to explain and make the information clear. Okay, so we've read lots of stories that have used text features like headings to tell us what that section's going to be about, and then graphic features like our maps, diagrams, charts that help us understand what we're reading. We have also seen a lot of photographs, pictures, those kind of graphic features as well. Okay, and then down here we can see that our target strategy is going to be infer or predict. So when we infer or make an inference, we're basically figuring out what the author has not come out and told us. That's what it means to make an inference. And I actually have a little jingle that I made up for inferring or making an inference, and it goes like this. Infer, make an inference, what's it about? The author didn't tell us, but we figured it out. Okay, so if we were able to do our word of the day, that would be infer or make an inference. Okay, so the other strategy is predict, and we've done that quite a lot as well, right? We always want to predict while we're reading to see if we can figure out what might happen next. And down here it says, use the text and graphic features to help you predict what you will learn and to infer or figure out what the author considers most important about the topic. So while we read, we're going to be looking at those features and seeing, we're doing two things. We want to think about what are we going to learn. We want to make a prediction about that. And then also we want to be figuring out what, based on these things we're seeing, these features, what do we think the author thinks is most important for us to know as we read? Okay. Previewing. Mountains are high, elevated landforms that are found all over the world. Some are high and snow-capped. Others are rounded and covered with trees. Still others are smoking volcanoes. The most common kind are fold mountains, such as the Alps in Europe. These were created long ago when two plates of Earth's crust collided. In Mountains Surviving on Mount Everest, you'll read about a 16-year-old boy who climbs Mount Everest, the tallest mountain on Earth. Oh my goodness, he must be very brave, don't you think, guys? A 16-year-old climbing Mount Everest? Whoa. Before we read this story, just answer this to yourself or maybe to your parents or somebody else in the room. Would you want to climb Mount Everest? And if you did, what do you think you would need to bring with you in order to make that journey? Okay, and then before we get started, also I want you to think about a mountain that you've seen. And where we live, we can actually look around and see a lot of mountains, right, guys? If you have time and you want to draw, I know we have a lot of artists here, go ahead and describe to somebody, or you can even sketch. Remember that word, sketch, from when we did What Do Illustrators Do? It's just a quick draw of the mountain, and then you can share it with somebody at your house. Maybe your big brother or little sister or mom or dad or grandma, or somebody who's there with you. So that might be a kind of fun thing for you to do. Okay, we already know our genre is informational text, which is going to give us a lot of facts. So we're going to be looking for our headings. They tell us what each section's about. We're looking for our photographs and captions. Remember, the captions describe the photograph. And then we are also checking out those graphic features like the maps that show us where things are and the diagrams that give us a visual aid of what we're learning about. Our author is Michael Sandler, and it says Michael Sandler enjoys extreme adventures. He loves to travel and has been to the foothills of Mt Everest, the highest mountain in the world. Several years ago, while touring Africa, he got lost in the Sahara, the world's largest desert. That adventure might have helped him later to write Deserts Surviving in the Sahara. Other extreme books by Sandler include Oceans Surviving in the Deep Sea and Rainforests Surviving in the Amazon. Yikes. Ooh, these sound really exciting. Before we get started, where would you rather be stuck or lost? Would you rather be lost in a desert, the largest desert on Earth, perhaps? Or in the ocean, in the rainforest, or on top of a mountain like Mount Everest that's covered with snow and freezing? I think for me, I'd probably choose the rainforest just because, I'm not really into climbing tall mountains that are covered with snow. Not want to be in the middle of the ocean and the desert. Ooh, scorpions, snakes. No, thank you. Of course, there's snakes in the rainforest too, huh, guys? Oh, well. Okay, while we're reading, let's think about why do mountain climbers need to be well prepared? And I hope you've been thinking about if you were going to make this journey, what would you have with you? What do you think that you would need in order to survive in such a harsh condition like the top of a snowy mountain? All right, page 348. I spot a heading right away, and it's called Climbing Mount Everest. That tells us what this little section or page is going to be about. The clock showed almost midnight. The temperature was freezing. Icy winds roared by. A group of people huddled in the darkness on a rocky ridge. In moments, they would begin the final stage of a dangerous journey. They were climbing to the top of Mount Everest, the world's highest mountain. And then on the next page, I see a photograph, it looks like, of somebody. And then I don't see a regular caption that we would see just at the bottom of the photograph, but I get the feeling that this paragraph down here is going to tell us about who we see in this photograph. Among the climbers was Temba Sherpa. And notice how in parentheses here, guys, it is telling us how to pronounce this last name because it has a little bit of an unusual spelling, right? T-S-H-E-R-I. So this is helping us to know that we would pronounce this sure-e. And this is bigger, which means that's where we put our emphasis on that syllable, sure-e. Sherpa. Just 2 weeks before, Temba had celebrated his 16th birthday. Now he was trying to survive in one of the world's most extreme places. Making it to the top of Everest was Temba's dream. He would be the youngest person ever to reach the summit, which is 29,035 feet, or 8,850 meters high. Think about that for a second, guys. Our classroom is about, I'd say about 12 to 13 maybe meters across. So think about 8,850 meters high. That is very high. All right, let's keep reading. What are mountains? Oh, there's another heading for us. So this tells us we're going to be learning about mountains. Mountains are a type of tall landform. They rise high above the sea around them. Mountains are taller than hills. They can rise thousands of feet or kilometers in the air. They are found all over the world, even beneath the sea. A group of mountains is called a range. The biggest mountain range in North America is the Rocky Mountains. Remember, guys, North America is where we live. The Andes in South America is the world's longest mountain range. Now, I wanted to see that map a little bigger, so I went ahead and zoomed in for us. So here is North America. This is where we live, of course. Idaho is right about here somewhere. And, oh goodness, having cursor problems. Okay, so let's make that go away. Perfect. And there we can see the Rocky Mountains. See how it's labeled right there, guys? Right here is the Rocky Mountains. And then South America is down here, and that is where the Andes Mountains is. You can see it's labeled right there, is the Andes Mountains. Okay, and then we can see some other mountain ranges as we look at our different continents and countries over here. So Africa is right here, and it looks like we have the East Africa Mountains and the Atlas Mountains that they're showing us in Africa. And then if we look up in Europe, we can see the Swiss Alps right there. And then over in Asia, we've got the Himalaya Mountains right here. And then down in Australia, it's pointing out the Great Dividing Range right there. All right, so that is our lovely map that's showing us all these different mountain ranges. All right, so we just got a closer look at the mountain ranges that we're reading about. So let's keep reading. Mount Everest, the mountain Temba was climbing, is part of the Himalayan mountains. The name Himalaya means home of snow. This Asian range is the world's highest. It includes 9 of the 10 tallest mountains on Earth. Wow. And notice once again, guys, they helped us out with this pronunciation of the word Himalaya. So that gives us an idea of how to say that word correctly. All right, and then we have a little picture down here, and it says mountains cover 1/4 of Earth's land surface. Luckily, we've been studying fractions, and we know that 1/4 is the same as 1/4. So 1/4 of Earth's land surface is made up of mountains. So that means if we were to cut all the surface of Earth into 4 giant pieces, one whole piece would be full of mountains. Wow. Okay, our next heading says mountain conditions. So we're going to be finding out all about what it's like on the mountain. As Temba approached, there's that vocabulary word. I see a few more on this page. As Temba approached Everest's summit, survival became harder and harder. Mountain conditions get more extreme the higher a person climbs. Air contains less and less oxygen as the altitude increases. Breathing becomes nearly impossible. Thin air can cause headaches and dizziness at 10,000 feet or 3,048 meters. Higher up, it can be deadly. Remember when we read our vocabulary and context cards, guys, and we saw that a lot of the people were carrying oxygen tanks, so that is definitely why they needed them. Humans cannot survive for long at the top section of mountains like Everest. Hurricane force winds can reach 130 miles per hour. Oh my goodness. Temperatures can plummet to -100 degrees Fahrenheit or -73 degrees Celsius during the night. Blowing snow makes it hard to see. Temba was headed here. Wow. That is crazy, guys. Would you want to go somewhere where the winds can blow up to 130 miles per hour and the temperatures can get to negative 100 degrees? Oh my goodness. I sure wouldn't. So based on the type of diagrams and other text and graphic features that we've been seeing, I'm getting the idea that the author really wants us to know lots of different things about mountains. So I think the author wants us to know about what it's like on the mountains, the kind of things that we might need if we go climbing up a mountain, and also about maybe some people who have done this before. All right, let's see. Frostbite can happen when it's so cold that hands, feet, and other parts of the body freeze solid. Yikes. Frostbite can cause people to lose fingers, toes, even their noses. Eek. That's not good. Not good, guys. All right. Why do people climb mountains? I am wondering the same thing. People climb mountains for many reasons. Some enjoy the thrill of being high above the clouds. Others like the challenge of testing their skills. For decades, however, reaching the top of Everest was a test that no climber could pass. The first attempts to climb Everest were made during the 1920s. Again and again, the climbing teams stopped short of their goal. Why do you think that is? Why do you think they never made it? Let's keep reading. Avalanches, storms, sickness, and exhaustion brought them to a halt. Okay, well that makes sense. All of those things would definitely make people stop, right guys? If there were avalanches, we know what those are, remember? Very scary. Would not want to get caught in an avalanche. And then, yeah, storms, those winds that we were hearing about, the temperatures. By the time they're almost there, they are so tired and they're getting sick. Whew, goodness. Ooh, then in 1953, two climbers finally succeeded, Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay. Hillary was from New Zealand. Norgay was a Sherpa from Nepal, and that helps us to figure out how to say that word, Nepal. Okay, so it looks like we have a picture of the people we were just told about. So this little caption is going to tell us about the photograph and about who's who. So it says Sir Edmund Hillary, left, that tells us the person on the left, this is Edmund, and Tenzing Norgay on the right, show off their survival equipment in 1953. So what do you guys think that they did differently than other people? I wonder why they were able to make it if nobody before them was able to. And this says, we're looking at our text and graphic features, just like we've been doing the whole time. It says these pages include headings. We've noticed that already, right? A caption. Oh, there we go. And a boxed fact. Okay, so we can officially call this a boxed fact. What kinds of information do these text features provide? Well, we've been getting lots of information from them, right, guys? All right, let's keep reading. Uh-oh, this one's called Temba's Mistake. I wonder what mistake Temba made. Temba had tried to climb Everest before. It ended, however, in failure. I didn't have enough training or proper equipment, Temba said. He was almost at the summit when his oxygen supply ran out. Ooh. Without oxygen, Temba couldn't think clearly. He made a terrible mistake. He took off his gloves to tie his boots. Oh no. His fingers froze. Temba suffered frostbite on both hands. He had to turn back just 70 feet or 21 meters from his goal. Oh my goodness. Think about that, guys. He was so close. Only 70 feet, 21 meters from getting to the top, the summit of Mount Everest. And he had to turn around and go back because he got frostbite on both of his hands because he was not thinking clearly and took off his gloves. Oh my goodness. The next time around, however, Temba was prepared. He had trained hard. He had the right equipment thanks to his classmates and teachers. They had raised money for his trip. So he was not going to let that stop him, right, guys? He got super close to his goal, and then he had to turn around and go back, and he didn't give up. That's awesome, right? That's perseverance for sure. And on this page, we also have a graphic feature showing us what some of the equipment looks like that you would need to survive if you were going to try to make this type of very dangerous journey. So it looks like there's a climbing suit to protect against cold, gloves to keep your hands warm and dry. I'm sure they're very special, very warm gloves, right? Because the second he took off his gloves, he got frostbite. So they have to be very, very, very high quality warm gloves. Okay, goggles. You definitely need goggles to protect your eyes from the sun's harmful rays and from the reflection off of the snow. Remember with that, we read all about that when we read Life on the Ice. So we already know that one. Oxygen mask and tank for breathing at the highest altitudes. Yep, you definitely need oxygen up there. Ice axe to help climb slopes and break up ice. Okay, climbing ropes to climb up slopes and trekking poles to help a climber stay balanced. That would be this pole right here. And then mountain boots with spikes that dig into the snow and ice. That would be essential, right? So that you wouldn't slip on the ice. You need something that spikes in and keeps you in place. All right, camp to camp, page 355. Temba's second try began in April 2001. Wow, this is April of 2020, so this was 19 years ago. All right, Mount Everest sits between Nepal and Tibet. There are several different routes to the top. Temba would take a route from the north, the Tibetan side. Climbers move from one camp to the next, higher one, and then rest for a while. At each camp, their bodies get used to the higher altitudes. Temba spent several weeks moving between camps with his team. At Camp 3, the team waited for a break in the weather. Winter was over, but there had been a series of severe snowstorms. Getting caught in a snowstorm farther up the mountain would be deadly. Ooh. And I zoomed in on this diagram that will help us to see the camps up close a little bit better. And it tells us in our little fact box, the climb up Everest officially begins at base camp. Climbers stay in tents there so their bodies get used to the lower levels of oxygen. Okay, so this gives us a really good visual of the different camps. So this is base camp down here. This is at 5,334 meters or 17,500 feet. So that is where they start. That's where they officially begin their climb. And then it looks like the next base is at 20,000 feet or 6,096 meters. That's the advanced base. And then from there, oh, that looks like a long trek, guys. The next one is 22,500 feet, and it's 6,858 meters. Camp 3 is 23,800 feet, and it's 7,254 meters. Camp 4 is 25,500 feet, which is 7,772 meters. Camp 5, notice that the distances are, like here is a lot shorter, right, to get from Camp 4 to Camp 5. And that's probably because as you get closer and closer to the top, it gets much more difficult, right, guys? So you're not able to travel as far for sure before you need to stop and take a break. So Camp 5 is 27,200 feet, which is 8,291 meters. And then the summit is the very top of Mount Everest, and it's 29,035 feet, or 8,850 meters. Wow. The climb along the ridge. On May 20th, Temba's team reached Camp 4. Then the climbers headed out on the great ridge leading to the summit. Temba plunged his axe into ice walls, pulling himself up. He steadied himself against 50-mile-per-hour winds. Yet he climbed higher and higher. Temba had to move fast or die. Darkness stopped him before he got to Camp 5. His team had gone ahead. Luckily, Temba found a tent. He spent the night frightened and alone. The next day, Temba rejoined his team. They reached Camp 6, 1 day's climb from their goal. Wow, that would be so scary, guys. Imagine if your team went on without you and you were all alone. That would be very frightening. Okay. Climbers have to be very careful. Towers of ice can fall over without warning. Oh my goodness. And then this gives us an amazing photograph, right, guys, of them climbing. They're actually climbing up, and this is what it actually looks like up there. And they have to hold on to those ropes and use their tools, or else they would just slip and fall and just slide down that mountain. Okay, we've got another fact box and a photograph over here. That looks pretty terrifying. What do you think, guys? It says climbers use aluminum ladders to cross deep cracks in the ice, called crevices. The crevices are constantly opening and closing, so it is very dangerous. Yes, we can see that just by looking at the picture. Way too dangerous for me. What about you? Okay. Reaching the top of the world. Wow. Just before midnight, Temba began his final climb. A headlamp lit the darkness. An oxygen mask helped Temba to breathe. Sometimes he'd stop to rest or to change oxygen bottles. Just after sunrise, Temba reached Mt Everest's summit. He was higher than anyone else on the planet. Temba planted 2 flags. One was for his school. The other was for Nepal. I felt so happy, he said. Wow, imagine that feeling, guys. I mean, I wouldn't want to do the climbing part and the scary, dangerous part, but that would be quite an amazing feeling, wouldn't it? To accomplish a goal like that, reaching the top of the highest mountain in the world. Yeah, pretty amazing. There's our fact box. It is dangerous for climbers to spend more than 10 minutes at the top of Everest. The body needs to get to a lower altitude where there is more oxygen. Okay, so you can only enjoy your success for less than 10 minutes, and then it's time to go. And there's a photograph with a caption on page 359, and it says, Temba was the youngest person to climb Mount Everest. He achieved his goal. That's pretty cool. Will the mountains survive? Temba survived in the mountains. Now he wants to make sure the mountains survive. The world's mountains face many different threats. Trash is one problem. For a while, Everest was called the world's highest garbage dump. How sad is that? That's just terrible, right, guys? It says the mountain was littered with tons of trash that climbers left behind. Batteries, bottles, and empty oxygen tanks. Many climbers didn't have the time or strength to carry these things back down with them. Okay, well, I guess it's not as bad as I was thinking originally. So they just didn't have time or strength, which is better than just being careless and leaving things, right? But still, that is not okay. So that's pretty cool that Temba is making sure that it gets cleaned up, looks like. It says in our photograph, we can see a picture of just some of the things left there, and it looks like people are trying to clean it up a little bit. It says climbers have left garbage on Everest since 1921. Now people are trying to clean up the mess. Well, that's good. Okay, global warming is another problem. As Earth gets warmer, mountain glaciers are melting. Himalayan lakes are swelling up with water. When they flood, mountain landscapes will be changed forever. And our fact box tells us in 2005, the snowcap of Tanzania's Mount Kilimanjaro melted for the first time in history. Yikes. After the climb. After the climb. When Temba came down from Everest, he was thinking about food, not fame. After weeks of camping, he was starving for home cooking. Still, when he flew home to Kathmandu, a huge crowd was waiting. Temba couldn't believe it. I had never seen so many cameras. All of them were pointed at me, he said. Despite the attention, Temba focused on his schoolwork. He needed a good education to achieve his other dream, starting a school in Dolaka. Will Temba succeed? Only time will tell. If you've survived on Everest, however, and reached the top, no goal seems too high. That's definitely true, don't you think, guys? If you can make it to the top of Mount Everest, you can do anything. And then we have a beautiful picture, and our caption tells us that we are looking at a picture of Kathmandu. That's how to say it right here in parentheses. And it's the capital and largest city in Nepal. And then here's a picture of Temba wearing a garland of flowers, and it says, Temba smiled at supporters who greeted him at the Kathmandu airport after he successfully climbed Mount Everest. Wow, what an amazing story about the youngest person to ever climb the world's tallest mountain. I hope you enjoyed this story, and I'll see you soon.